capabilities. So thanks for kicking this off. First, want to thank Jeremy for offering to do our final session in what has been a 4-part series on marketing technology. And, Jeremy is such an asset to SCORE Manasota. So I want to first talk to you about SCORE Manasota and what we do here with SCORE Manasota here in the community. If you're not familiar with SCORE, we are a national organization. We're part of the SBA. We have over 300 chapters nationwide and 11,000 volunteers. And we're here to help small businesses. If you are not familiar with our organization and you are in a small business and you need help, we are here to help you. We offer mentoring, and we have some real amazing experts that can help you with either launching your small business or starting your small business. If you're growing it, that's what we're here for. At SCORE Manasota, we have a very rich history and some great opportunity to connect with folks here that are amazing mentors. So please connect with us. You can request a mentor either post-session or via email. We're certainly happy to help you. But again, if you're growing your business, starting a business, or even exiting a business, that's what we're here to help you do. Whether it's through workshops or mentoring, we want to help you. And this is one of the workshops that we provide. Jeremy's here today to talk with us in our final session about digital marketing. And he's going to dive into some really great content. We also want to thank our sponsors for helping us as well. Our community partners, we could not do this without them, and certainly providing you with free services that can help you grow your business. That's what we're here for. So Jeremy joins us. Jeremy has a very rich history, and in some of the things that he has done, he's specialized more in digital marketing. And he's been doing that for over 10 years. He was born and raised in Florida. He has his bachelor's degree in fine arts, and his expertise is in web design, search engine optimization, as well as email marketing and digital marketing. And he has helped companies, a lot of folks, just increasing their bottom line. And that's really his focus, is ROI, and how can we get you to get more revenue and make more money. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jeremy. Jeremy, we're so happy that you're here today. Thanks again for volunteering and doing this for folks.
Thank you very much, Paula. I always enjoy giving these workshops. But today we're going to be talking about digital marketing and all of the different channels that you can utilize in order to market your business online. This is kind of going to be the culmination of everything that we've gone over the past 3 weeks. So the first section that we're going to be talking about, and I've kind of broken it down into 4 different sections today, we're going to go over the foundations and things that you need to have before you can even start a digital marketing campaign. So we're going to do a very quick recap on your USP, or unique selling proposition, that we went over in week 1. We're going to do a quick recap about your customer avatar that we went over in week 3. And then we're going to look at your website to see if it really is ready for a digital marketing campaign. Then we're going to go into how to market to intent-based customers. So we're going to look at your Google My Business listing. We're going to look at some pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization. Next, we're going to move into marketing to passive customers, so social media marketing and advertising. And then we're going to look at retargeted marketing, which is mostly made up of email marketing. Now, for those of you who are current SCORE clients, this should look very familiar to you. Everything that we're talking about today goes into the channels box here. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into digital marketing. So what is it, right? Well, digital marketing, also known as internet marketing or online marketing, is simply just utilizing digital channels to market your brand, services, or products to potential customers online. The primary goal of a digital marketing campaign is to drive traffic to your website and then convert that traffic into paying customers. But before we can start on a digital marketing campaign, we've got to build a solid foundation. So we have to do these before we can even start. And the first thing is to create your unique selling proposition. Again, we went over this in week one, but essentially your USP is what makes you different and or better than your competition. And the way that you can figure out what your USP is by performing a SWOT analysis. And this is going to help you figure out what your S words are or your strength words. So once you've created your unique selling proposition, the next thing you have to figure out is who are you trying to market to? And that's where you need to create your customer avatars, also known as buyer personas. So these are going to be your ideal customers, and you want to try and be as in depth as possible. You know, you're crafting an entire person. So you want to, put in things like their demographics, like their age, gender, location, income, and also their psychographics. You know, what are they interested in? How do they behave? What are their buying habits? And then you would want to put all of that into a worksheet kind of like this. And again, this is just so that you know who you're trying to market to. Because a lot of times businesses focus so much on what they're trying to market, they forget to put any effort into who they're trying to market to. So, this is an extremely important step. If we don't have a USP and we don't have a customer avatar already created before we start digital marketing, you're going to end up spending a ton of money trying to figure this out the hard way. So it's always best to do the research before you actually start your marketing campaign. And that leads us into your website, because the website is where everything starts. The whole point of a digital marketing campaign is to drive traffic to your website. So we need to make sure that your website is good to go. It's ready to accept a ton of traffic, right? Because like I said, it's the foundation of your online presence, and it's going to be the central hub for your entire campaign. And again, the goal of your website is to provide information to visitors and to use it as a marketing tool in order to convert those visitors into paying customers. I know a lot of small business owners when they first get started, they just kind of like, I just need to get a website up there. But think of your website as a marketing tool for yourself, and you have to make sure that your website, your foundation is solid before engaging in a digital marketing campaign. So there's a few different boxes that I like to check off to make sure that a website is ready to go for a digital marketing campaign. And then I'm going to jump into each one of these very, very briefly. So the first one is modern design. Just make sure that your website is up to date, aesthetically speaking. When a visitor comes to your website, you want them to feel comfortable and a sort of sense of familiarity. If you look at the examples here, if somebody goes to the website on the left, that's a very outdated looking website. And that's going to give off a poor first impression. Someone's going to think, wow, is this business even in business anymore? Do they exist anymore? It's very important to just keep up with modern design trends. Usually every 3 to 5 years, you want to touch up your website a bit. It doesn't mean you have to overhaul it completely, but just to keep up with sort of the modern design practices. The next thing is to make sure that your website functions properly on desktop and mobile. It functions very well in all different device sizes. This is called responsive design. Now, if you are a B2B business, then the majority of your customers will be coming from desktops. Whereas if you're B2C, the majority of your customers will be coming from mobile devices. So you want to make sure that depending on who your target demographic is, that your website is designed for that specific device. So if you're B2B, make sure that you focus on the desktop version of your site first, and then make sure it looks good on mobile, and then vice versa. If you're B2C, have a mobile first mindset when designing your website. So you're designing for the layout on mobile devices first, and then you translate that into a desktop experience. Scalability is essentially allowing your website to grow with your business as your business grows. Platforms like Squarespace, Wix, Webflow, they're really great for the sort of very quick DIY. Like, I just need to get a website up, I want to do it myself. But the downside is that these platforms don't scale very well once your business starts to grow. They have very primitive SEO tools where they're okay, but they're not nearly as good as the ones you can get with WordPress. I prefer WordPress. I've built multi-million dollar e-commerce sites through WordPress. It can handle a ton of traffic. And so if you start off with a WordPress site, you'll never have to change off of WordPress because it can scale as your business grows. The other reason I like WordPress is because it's free. Unlike Wix or one of those do-it-yourself platforms where you're having to pay anywhere between like $15 to $50 per month, you can get hosting for WordPress for as low as $80 a year. So it's a cheaper option in the long run, but it is a little bit more technical to set up. The other reason I like WordPress is because there's tons of integrations, especially for digital marketing, which just makes the whole marketing campaign a lot easier. The next thing you want to make sure is that your website loads fast. The last thing that you want to do is be sending a ton of traffic to your website, and then your website doesn't load very fast, and you have users leaving the website because they're just seeing a blank white page because it's not loading quick enough. One of the tools that I use is called GT Metrics. It scans the website, shows you how fast the website loads, and then it shows you everything that's being called on from that web page. So this is one of the tools that I like to use in order to optimize the loading times of a website. Next, you want to make sure that you have clear communication throughout your entire website. Um, this comes down to just making sure that it's very, very clear what you do or what you provide to a customer. Um, for example, I had a client a few years ago that built custom pools, but when I went to their website, it was essentially just an e-commerce store for pool supply products. And they were wondering, hey, why are we not getting leads for custom pools? Well, it's because their website was very confusing and it didn't really specify what they did. So you want to make sure that there's just clear communication. And then the USP, there's the word again. So you want to make sure that your unique selling proposition, again, this is what sets you apart from everybody else. This is, what makes you stand out. You want to make sure that this is on your website. Again, because when somebody comes to your website, they're going to see that USP and they're going to think, oh, okay, maybe I should go with this company because they're better for their USP. And then the last thing about your website is to make sure that it's conversion optimized. And to make this as simple as possible, uh, you want to make it as frictionless as possible for a user to give you their contact information as a lead or to purchase your products. And you do that, there's a little acronym there that you can look at. It's called converts. And these are essentially just some things to look at to make sure that your website is conversion optimized. Because again, with digital marketing, you're trying to push a ton of traffic to your website, and the goal is to get them to convert. So you want to make sure that your layout for your website is optimized to make it as easy as possible for those users to give you their contact information or to make a purchase. So now that we've got our foundation set, we've got our USP, we know who we're trying to market to, our website's ready to accept a ton of traffic. Now we need to get into actual digital marketing channels. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at marketing to intent-based customers first. Now, this is considered inbound marketing as opposed to outbound marketing. And the way that I like to think of the differences for those who are unaware, inbound marketing is when customers come to you, right? So this would be through the search engine marketing. These are your intent-based customers. People who know what they want and they come to you for that. Whereas outbound marketing is where you're trying to push out to customers to try and pull them in. And so this is like your advertising, your cold calling, cold emailing, outreach stuff, that sort of thing. So, a search engine marketing allows you to market your business to those intent based customers. And an intent based customer is someone who already is in need of a service or product, and they're just, using a search engine to try and find somebody who can give it to them. Right. And this is great as it bypasses half of the sales process. You don't have to convince somebody that they need what you're selling. They already need it. They're just looking for somebody to provide it. And that is perfect to market yourself inside of search engines, right? So then the next question would be, well, there's a ton of search engines out there. Which one should I market myself on? And the short answer is that you should start with Google. Google makes up 87% of the search engine market share. There are 5.8 billion searches per day on Google versus 340 million per day on Bing. And that's not to say that you should only market on Google, because there is definitely people who only use Bing or only use Yahoo. So eventually, as your business grows and as your marketing budget grows, you want to start to invest in multiple search engine channels. But usually, to start off with, the primary one that I recommend is Google, just because of of what I stated before. Now, there are three main ways to market your business to intent-based customers in search engines, and we're going to be focusing mostly on Google since it's the most dominant search engine. But these concepts are universal, and you can use them on any search engine. And the first way is through your Google My Business listing. Now, Bing has its own, local listing names, and Yahoo, I believe, has their own as well. But the Google My Business listing is probably the first thing that you can do. Then we're going to look at pay-per-click advertising and more specifically search ads. And then we're going to get into a little bit of SEO. So Google My Business is the first thing that you can do to start showing up in Google. And the best part is that it's completely free, right? So your Google My Business listing can get your business in front of local customers in as little as 4 to 5 days. And to start, you just have to make sure you've got a Google account, and then you go to business.google.com. And then just go through the entire process of adding your listing and adding content to that listing. And it's extremely important to make sure that you fill out that business listing as completely as possible. You want to upload pictures like your logos, work in progress photos if that's relevant to you, photos of team members, photos of your office space, some videos. You want to make sure that you put all of your services in there. It's extremely important because the more you fill out your business listing, the better it's going to perform. Now, those business listings show up in what we call the local map pack. So in this instance, we're looking for a landscaper in Sarasota. So of course, the first thing that shows up are the ads. And then under that, what Google tries to do is it tries to find all of the local businesses that are relevant to that search query, and then to try and give the user the best possible one. So this is where your Google My Business listing will show up. And it has its own ranking system, and really the only way to increase your position in that map pack is by getting more reviews, and then getting 5-star reviews. So it goes off of the number of reviews and then what is the overall score of your reviews. And then this is sort of what your Google My Business listing dashboard looks like. So it gives you a lot of good analytical information. So you can see the performance of your business listing. You can see all of the reviews for your listing. You can go in there and reply to reviews. You can manage reviews. Um, it's really a great tool. And again, the best part is that this is completely free. So if you don't have a Google My Business listing yet, I highly recommend this is the first step to do it. So then from there, what we want to look at is pay-per-click advertising. And this is the second way that you can market in search engines. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about Google search ads. And what this does is it works like an auction. You choose the search terms that you want to show up for, you set a bid amount, and then whoever bids the highest shows up the highest in the search engines, right? So if you want to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of a Google Ads campaign, you do not want to be using the Google Smart campaign, because the Google Smart campaign just stops there. It stops at, give us a budget and then give us the services that you want us to advertise for. Google will then try to use its own algorithms and stuff to try and place your ads. The downside to this, though, is that you have no control over it. You're just letting Google handle your ads completely. And 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is that it just chews through your budget. So you should be wary about doing it yourself because there's a lot that really goes into a proper advertising campaign. Now, if you do want to do it yourself, um, one thing that I would advise against is you're going to get an email from a Google ad rep. Okay, now these are legitimate Google employees, but these people are salesmen. They're not the ad experts, right? So their sole duty is to contact you, say, hey, we can make your ads a lot better. They may do a couple little tweaks, but ultimately their goal is to try and get you to put more money into that Google machine, right? Now, the Google ad reps that agencies work with, that marketing agencies work with, those are the real experts. Those aren't the same ones who are contacting the sort of do-it-yourselfers or the small businesses. Again, those are the salespeople. But the ones that marketing agencies work for or work with are the ones who actually know all of the little details of a Google advertising system. So again, if you want to do it yourself, don't put your faith into those Google ad reps because they're just going to tell you to put more money and put more money into it. Now, the great thing about running search ads is that you can start generating leads within a matter of days. Now, this is, this is a variable here. So, just because you start a search ad campaign doesn't mean you're going to automatically start getting a bunch of leads. There's a lot of things that go into it. Did you do all of the research beforehand? How small is your target market? There's just a ton that goes into it, which is why the real growth of your website, you don't want to rely on advertising, even though that can be the sort of initial push of traffic to your website. The real growth, the real traffic comes from search engine optimization. So search engine optimization, or SEO, accounts for over 50% of total website traffic. And that's what's going to generate the majority of your business and your leads eventually. The downside to SEO is that it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months to start seeing results from your campaign. That's because SEO is based on thousands of algorithms, and it takes time for Google to understand your site and see the optimizations that have been made to it. Now, the organic listings, which is what SEO does, it ranks your website inside of search engines organically. And this is what we're seeing here is considered a SERP, which is a search engine results page. So we kind of saw this a little bit before when I highlighted the Google My Business listings up there in the map pack. So the SEO, again, helps you rank organically in the SERP, so just under that map pack. Now, 70% of users actually skip over those top ads and they skip over this map pack and go directly to the organic results. So that's why it's extremely important to have an SEO campaign, because you could just be doing ads, but then again, you're only getting about 30% of the total traffic aimed at those keywords. So making sure that you rank organically for those through an SEO campaign, again, that's where the majority of your traffic will be coming from eventually. Now, I went over SEO a couple weeks ago in a ton of detail. It was a very sort of technical presentation. If you want to learn more about that, then go to our website, manasota.score.org. You can click on the libraries menu tab and you can rewatch that if you want to get into the nitty gritty of search engine optimization. But for now, I just want to skim over the sort of three big topics that we talked about. So just a refresher for those who did see week two, and for those of you who missed it, you'll get a sort of basic understanding. But there's three main pillars to SEO. We have technical SEO, on-page SEO, and off-page SEO. So technical SEO is just all of the coding and the structure of the website, right? So these are things like making sure any error codes get fixed, there's any broken links get fixed. This is all like the underlying structure of the website, just making sure that it's technically sound. Now, the reason this is the first step is because there's one very important thing that can completely demolish your chances in a search engine, and that is a little file called robots.txt. So what the robots file does is when a crawler like Google search engine, when it comes to your website to try and figure out what it's about, that file will either say, yes, you can scan this website, or no, you cannot scan this website. Now, if that one file tells the search engines, hey, you're not allowed to scan this website, then your website's never going to show up in the search engine, right? So it's extremely important to know, hey, I need to do some technical SEO first to make sure that my website can be indexed by a search engine, and then to fix any of these coding or structural issues that there may be. The next part is actually optimizing all of the on-page stuff. And you can think about this as just the content of the website, optimizing the content for a very specific keyword. So this is everything like the text on the page, the videos, images, multimedia stuff, the internal and external linking. So how are you interconnecting your pages together? How long is your content? And how often are you using your keyword, which is called keyword density, right? So every page that you try to optimize should only be optimized for a single keyword. Um, and just one thing to keep in mind is that the average page that ranks number one has a word count of 1,800 words. So that's something that we've known for a few years now, is that Google loves good content. And then the last part, which is a very confusing bit, which is the off page or the authority building. And to sum this up, you can think about, let's say I need to go to a dentist, right? But I don't have one. So I need to go to my friends and have them refer a dentist to me. So I go to a friend, he gives me a business card to a dentist. Okay. Next, I go to another friend and say, hey, I need a dentist. They give me the same business card. Well, I want to be thorough, so let me go to a third person. They give me the same business card. So now I've got three people all recommending the same dentist, right? And that's how it works with websites as well. Google wants to know how trustworthy your website is. So it's going to look to other websites for referrals, right? So for instance, if Google sees that there's a lot of websites that are all referring their traffic to your website, then Google knows that you are a more trustworthy source of information, and that's going to increase your authority. So Google actually places what's called a domain authority, which is like a rank, a trustworthiness factor on your website. And the only way that you can increase that trustworthiness factor is by having more and more and more websites referring their traffic back to your website. And that's those are called backlinks. And the only way to really get those backlinks is through a guest blog post service where you have to pay a certain amount per link. So, just a side note there, too. Uh, do not hire somebody who's going to promise you thousands of backlinks and a guaranteed number one result. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but again, just to reiterate this, those are scammers. They're going to get you your results, but it's going to be very, very temporary because the way that they do it goes against the terms of service for Google, and your website will be de-indexed or heavily, heavily penalized. So now that we've kind of covered how to market in search engines to those intent-based users, now we need to figure out, well, how can we market to passive customers, right? This is going to be more outbound marketing. So how do we market our product if nobody knows about it? Nobody's searching for it, nobody knows about it. Then we can't market through search engines because, well, nobody's looking for it. So there are no intent-based users, right? So we have to make the world aware of our products or our services. And that is mostly going to be done through social media marketing. So social media is mostly used for brand awareness, customer interaction, engagement, and also building trust in your brand. But you can also advertise quite successfully on these platforms. For instance, service-based industries, especially homeowner services, so roofers, plumbers, electricians, those sorts of people, they would see a lot of success in marketing through search engines. However, they also can have some success through marketing through social media. They're not going to see the same amount of leads come in. It's going to be much more heavily influenced in search engine marketing. But you can still, very successfully advertise those types of services on Facebook. The key to being successful with social media is being consistent, right? The consistency is the key. And there's a few different factors that you should consider or think about when trying to market in social media. So what platforms should you market on? You need to create a consistent posting schedule, and then you consider advertising in social media. So, which platform should you focus on? Well, it really depends on your business and who your target demographic is. Having a Facebook page is pretty much universal. Everyone has Facebook. If the services that you provide are very visual, like there's a good before and after images, like if you're in kitchen remodeling or roofing or landscaping, pressure cleaning, those that kind of have like a wow factor if you put a before picture and an after picture side by side. You could do Instagram. It's a great way. Instagram products do very well with Instagram as well, especially Instagram advertising. You can get into influencer marketing a bit too, where if you find somebody on the platform that has your target demographic, and you can find an influencer who has millions of followers, and the people that follow them are your prime demographic. You can partner up with those people. You can pay them to advertise your products or your services out to their followers. Um, if your target demographic is businesses, so if you're B2B, LinkedIn is going to be a very good way to go, and having a LinkedIn profile is going to be a must. Now, you can actually market to business owners quite successfully on just Facebook, and there's ways which I very quickly went over at the end of last week on using your customer avatar and using Facebook to actually target your customer avatars. But there are ways to directly market to other business owners on Facebook. It's a little bit more difficult than LinkedIn because everybody on LinkedIn is a business person. But it is definitely still doable with Facebook. Now, if your target demographic is mostly to the younger audiences, so maybe you sell toys or you provide summer camps or you sell kids clothing or something like that, places like TikTok or Snapchat are great places to market. So again, the social platform that you decide to choose, I would say Facebook is pretty much a mandatory one. But then any additional ones that you want to use really depends on who your target demographic is. And some basic research, if you just go to Google and say, what's the average demographic for, X platform, and it'll tell you right there and then. So it can be a very quick process to figure out which ones you should market on. Now, consistent posting schedules is key. A lot of people, when they're trying to become internet famous, they get stuck in this mindset of how can I create something that'll go viral, you know? Well, honestly, that's if that's your mindset from the gate, if you're only trying to create stuff to try and go viral, it's never going to happen. But if you have a consistent posting schedule and you're consistently putting out engaging and thoughtful posts, the odds of something gaining a ton of traction are a lot higher. Um, and a consistent posting schedule gives you the opportunity to reach more people. Humans are things of habit. They like consistency. And so, if you're consistent with your posts, people feel more comfortable. For those who get closer, if you miss a day or something, people will notice. They'll say, "Hey, what happened?" So that's when you've got people engaged in your business. And the opposite could happen too. If you miss a post now and again, or if you start to consistently miss posts, you're going to start losing followers. Again, humans are creatures of habit. They love consistency. One thing to keep in mind on a business account, if it's your personal account, you can post whatever you want. But on a business account, posting inspirational quotes every day is not engaging content. It's okay every once in a while, or if it's part of a larger marketing story that you're trying to tell. But if you're just posting an inspirational quote, keep it sparse. Now, there are some um like if you're, for instance, if you're in like wholeness or like wellness type business industry, if you're in like therapy, something like that, then it's okay because it's more prime to your target demographic to post those inspirational quotes. But if you're like a plumber and you're posting inspirational quotes and that's all that's on your Facebook page, it's not really engaging for potential customers. And then you want to make sure that you're interacting and you're engaging with the people who are following your posts, who like your post, who comment on it, who share it. It's trying to communicate with your potential, customers. And it's important if they're your current customers, you're keeping some good communication between them. They're more likely to be repeat customers. Or if they're future customers, if you're friendly and you're talking a lot with them directly through social media, they start to build this bond with your company, and they're much more likely to hire you than they are your competition. Um, and the last thing here, like I said before, you might get lucky and go viral, but never make that your primary focus. You just want to make sure that you're focusing on consistency. And then the last part of social media advertising, and this one's really short again because I went over this last week. But advertising on social media can be very powerful, and you need to remember though that you're advertising to a passive audience. So more work has to be done in order to convert a customer. Now, the great thing about advertising on Facebook is that you can hone in on a very specific target audience. And again, this target audience are your customer avatars. So again, it's extremely, extremely important that you do your due diligence before a digital marketing campaign so you can get the most out of your spending. Okay. Now you can filter your audience by, the demographics, the psychographics, interests, behaviors, all of that. Again, I went over that last week. If you want to rewatch that, you can go to the website manasota.score.org and you can rewatch that presentation. So advertising through social media, targeting the proper audiences, this is going to allow you to put your products or your services in front of people who are the most likely to become your customers. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is retargeted marketing. So this is going to be, nurturing leads that you do get, and trying to gain returning customers. So email marketing is a great way to nurture leads and to create those repeat customers. And there's really two ways to maximize your email marketing. The first one is by creating lead magnets, and the second one is through retargeted marketing. Right. So lead magnets are little freebies that you can offer on your website, right? Whether it's like a newsletter sign up form, a free download, like a white paper that requires an email entry in order to access. These gathered emails, they can be put into an email marketing platform like MailChimp, which is free up to 2,000 contacts, I believe, or Constant Contact, so that you can target them based on how you get their emails. For example, if somebody signs up to your newsletter, that means they're interested in your business, and you can send them monthly emails, just updating them about your business or future products or services that are coming out. Um, or if they download a white paper, let's say, from a landscaping point of view, because I kind of used that example for the past few presentations. If you're a landscaping company, you can have like a little PDF of, oh, how to do something yourself, right? So they're interested in maybe saving some money. They put in their email address, they download that PDF. They read through that PDF, they realize, wow, this is a lot more than I thought. Well, you've already got their email address. So you can now put them in a group of people who downloaded that white paper on do-it-yourself lawn care, for instance. So you can create a very customized email marketing campaign to those specific people. And it's a great way to create a sales funnel that pushes a visitor that is interested in more information into becoming a paying customer. So retargeted marketing, and this is going to be the last slide for today, allows you to create those repeat customers and allows you to target people who have previously visited your site. And this is usually done by sending emails out to current or past customers with special promotions, discounts, giving them a reason to continuously come back again and again. Again, you can also keep them up to date with the latest news about your company, keeping your business in front of the customer. A lot of retargeted marketing is just trying to keep your brand at the front of their mind until they become a customer. Once they become a customer, you still want to keep your business in the front of their mind so that they become repeat customers if that is proper for your business model. But again, just like social media, consistency is key to successful email marketing campaigns. Now, there's a very fine line between being consistent and being spam. So don't email customers too frequently. You could end up being listed as a spam emailer, which will eventually result in all of your emails automatically being sent to the spam folder. That's the last thing that you want to happen, because then, you're spending money on email marketing and it's not going to be doing anything for you. And then you want to make sure that your emails are meaningful. Um, for newsletters, limit this to about once a month. Make sure that the emails contain good content. You don't want to just send out just shallow emails. You want to put some thought into it and really customize those emails based on the groups that you're sending those emails to. For examples like newsletters, it's very common to have them about once a month. If you have a lot of specials or promotions, you can try to group them into minimal emails. I would say maybe every other week at the most. There are some exceptions to this. If you deal with wholesalers and you've got a whole, email group just specifically for your wholesale providers, you need to be emailing them a little bit more frequently with changes to prices, quantities, all of that fun stuff. So there's exceptions to the quantity of emails that you're sending on a regular basis. But make them worthwhile. You don't want to send empty emails. And another type of email marketing and retargeted is through abandoned cart emails. So this is for e-commerce businesses. This allows you to, when somebody places an item in their cart, they go to the checkout and they kind of get halfway through, but then they leave the website for some reason, where they got distracted or their internet went out or they had second thoughts about buying it and they close out of the site. What an abandoned cart email allows you to do is send an email to that person who didn't quite finish their checkout process. Be like, hey, you left something in your cart. Uh, you know, and what that does is it kind of, again, it brings attention to your company. It brings attention to your products or your services. Be like, hey, you forgot to give us your money, so come back. Um, and you can set up a few different abandoned cart emails at different times. So you can say if somebody started the checkout process but then they left the website, you can send a follow-up email about an hour later saying, hey, come back. You can send them an email maybe a day later, be like, hey, this items are really lonely sitting in your cart. There's a lot that you can do with abandoned cart emails. And with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude the digital marketing channels. So hopefully you guys learned a lot about, you know, all the different channels we talked about today, kind of get an idea for which channels you should be using with your own business. And now I will hand it out to Paula for the outro.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. We've got quite a few questions, so I'm going to just kick it off here with the Q&A. The first question was, I currently use Wix. To use WordPress, do I have to be able to code?
So WordPress is a bit more technically involved than Wix. You don't have to know how to code in order to use WordPress. But any type of web design, if you're trying to do it yourself, it's nice to know a little bit about it. So if something goes wrong, you can fix it. If you don't, it is 100%. It's very similar to Wix. It has all the front end builders you can use for your website. That depends on the theme that you choose to use. But like I said, WordPress is a bit more technologically involved than Wix. So if you're not comfortable or you don't know code and you don't feel comfortable switching, you can definitely stay on Wix until you can afford to hire somebody to build it on WordPress.
Great. Have you ever heard of using a target person's name as a keyword to add to show up when that name?
Yes, so I actually use this tactic a lot with my own clients, and usually it's not targeting a person's name but a business's name. The concept is identical, but the idea here is, let's say if you're a landscaping company, you can add keywords that are your competitors' business names. So if somebody doesn't know who's out there for landscaping essentially, but they know what, they heard of a name before. Maybe it was a commercial or something, so they type in the name of that business. Well, if you're one of your keywords for your ad is that other business's name, then that your business will actually show up, even though they search for the other business directly. The same thing can be said for personal names too. For instance, if you are an influencer or like a guru or something like that, a consultant, if you're very well known, or somebody else is one of those types of people, and you want to try and grab some traffic from that person's name, absolutely you can use that person's name as a keyword for advertising.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jeremy. What is the ideal size of photos for uploading to the Google business page?
With that, you really don't have to do any image optimization. You can literally just take photos with your phone and upload them straight to Google My Business. They have a phone app that you can download. And Google will actually take care of the optimization of that image. It'll go ahead and compress it and resize it to a proper format. So you don't really have to worry about editing your photos to upload. Just make sure that they're high quality, and then Google will take care of the rest.
Awesome. Is there a way to keep people like SEO, website builders, salespeople from eating up your pay per click budget? A lot of the hits to this person's website aren't about his products. It's more these types of people looking for new accounts for their own business.
Yep, that is one of the issues that advertising runs into. I call them negative clicks. They're clicks that are never going to get us business, and it's just money down the drain. And unfortunately, that is just part of advertising. As long as you're trying to target specific keywords, if it doesn't matter who the other person is on the other end, it could be a robot, just searching keywords and clicking on ads. There are tactics, when you get into the bigger businesses like Walmarts and IKEAs and stuff like that, they use those sort of, I'd say, marketing sabotage techniques to go in and try and spend the other company's money as much as possible. But that's just sort of the nature of the beast when it comes to advertising. There's only so much that you can do to try to negate that, but it's sort of one of those inevitabilities that's it's just going to happen. Um, the only way to try to mitigate that is to go into the analytics of those advertising and see, are they, are those sort of negative clicks, are they coming at the same time every day? Is there some sort of pattern there? And then maybe you can do some advanced bid adjustments to decrease your bids for those certain times. And what that'll do is it'll have your ad display a lot less during that time, and then you can increase your ad spend at different times of the day. There's some ways to try and mitigate that, but again, that's just sort of one of the natures of advertising.
And then someone wants to link their G Suite URL to WordPress. Should they purchase a business package on WordPress or keep the free personal page to start?
So you can keep the free personal one. Usually, the way that they kind of name it is just for the resources available for your website. So, if it's like personal, then you only get a certain amount of like storage and performance on the server. If you get like a business package, you get a bit more performance from the server that your website's hosted on. So it really depends more on how much traffic your website is getting and how well your website is loading. How fast is it loading? Um, if you've gone through all of the optimizations on the site and it's still loading really, really slow, or you type in your URL and you get this loading bar, waiting for the response from the server, then you know that that's time to upgrade to a more expensive hosting option, whether it go from the free personal up to the business. Um, Now, as far as I'm aware, if you're on WordPress.org with the free one, um, that means you've got your sort of like your a subdomain of wordpress.org, so it would be like mywebsite.wordpress.org. As far as I'm aware, the free version doesn't allow you to have a custom domain. You have to pay to have a custom domain, but I'm not too sure off the top of my head. So if you can do it for free, then keep it on the free platform. Otherwise, you would have to upgrade in order to use your custom URL.
Jeremy, if your customer base is extremely wide, like homeowners with debt, would it be better to select a smaller group with this base and focus there first?
So what I would do personally is I would try to create customer avatars for all the different types of homeowners in debt. So, one thing that you could do is you could segment them into different age ranges. So maybe separate by 10 years. So, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, etc. Try to break them down by their race. Try to break them down into their income levels. The more that you can kind of segment your target audience, even though you've got such a wide audience that you're trying to market to, if you can create segments of your market, that'll better allow you to analyze which of those segments are performing much better. Because again, even though you're trying to advertise to all homeowners who are in debt, maybe it's the younger ones who may have, they're young, they did stupid stuff with their money, but they're, a little bit more put together now, so they're a bit more responsible. They may, perform a lot better than, your seniors who are in debt and just don't care anymore, who, they don't care about trying to fix their debts. So again, what I would suggest is just segment your target audiences, create those customer avatars for more specific types, and then try to break it down into the different age ranges, different ethnicities, and different income levels.
And then can you talk a little bit more about marketing on other social media platforms, specifically looking at Eventbrite, Nextdoor, and Yelp? And one person asked specifically about getting customers through Nextdoor. He's a boutique photographer.
So Nextdoor is really good for the sort of the business next door, or the local, very hyper local type businesses, neighborhoods, that sort of thing. Um, those are okay. It's an additional platform. I wouldn't put all my eggs in that one basket. I mean, it's definitely good to say, hey, we're rated 5 stars on Nextdoor. It is a very known name, especially if you're dealing with um, other very sort of local businesses around yourself. It is valid. Things like, Yelp, or Front Porch, I think is one as well, or Angie's List. Those types of business listing sites. If you sign up for those, it's great to have an account there. Because when you put in your website information and everything, you actually get backlinks from those websites to increase your domain authority. But they want you to buy into leads on those websites. So like, hey, give us X amount of money and we'll send you leads every month. Well, the issue with those is that they send those exact same leads to everybody in your industry who's going to be paying for it. So one of the big differences between, let's say, advertising on Google versus trying buying leads from one of those business listing sites, is that the ones that you get from Google are 100% yours. You're not sharing that with anyone else. Whereas the leads that you're getting from Angie's List or Nextdoor, Front Porch, Thumbtack, those types of websites, all of your competitors who are paying for that service are getting the exact same leads. So it is a legitimate way to get some leads. It's definitely worth it to have an account there just for the backlink alone. But again, you're going to have much more of an issue actually converting those leads than you would with leads that you get from a Google advertising campaign.
Jeremy, any inexpensive ways to get customers through LinkedIn?
Uh, the only way to get stuff for free is through sweat equity. So the through LinkedIn, it's just spending a ton of time on the platform, trying to connect and network with as many people as possible, trying to talk to as many as people as possible. There's always free ways to do things. It just takes, 1,000 times more effort to do it. Um, it is viable. I've done it before in the past. It's a pain to do, but if you're on a very tight budget, you can't afford to spend money on ads or something, just going through and doing a bunch of manual outreach, and LinkedIn is a great way to do it.
This is a real high altitude question, but is it possible to find out how many website visitors a specific business should have? Is there a general rule of thumb on that?
Well, what I would do is I would research your local competitors or whoever your competitors are in your search engines. So this is one of the tools that I went over a couple weeks ago in the SEO presentation was called Uber Suggest. And what you can do with that, if you just Google Uber Suggest or Google Neil Patel Uber Suggest, what you can do is you can just type in whatever your service is. So if it's like a local service like landscaping in Sarasota, you just type it in, hit enter, and it'll bring back all of the businesses that are ranking organically for that keyword. And then you can actually go in there, you can click on each one of their websites. It'll tell you roughly how much traffic they're getting on average per month. And then you can kind of base, where you stack up against your competitors from there. An overall, like, oh, you should be getting 500 people a month to your website. It's very hard to just say a number without knowing, well, what is your competition doing. So that's what I would suggest. Use Uber Suggest. Type in the keyword that you want to, that that's going to be driving traffic, whatever your service may be, and then get an idea for what your competitors are generating. And then from there, you'll be able to kind of figure out how much traffic your website should be generating.
Do you think it's helpful to repeatedly search your own website or have friends and family do the same to increase your visibility?
Eh, it kind of works because that is one of the ranking factors is the click-through rate. So, out of all of the people searching for a specific keyword, how many of them are actually clicking on your website. So if your website, if you're in fourth place, but your organic listing is getting more clicks than the third place one, then you could see an improvement there. However, it's going to be it's a very marginal factor. The biggest factor for just improving the visibility of your website through search engines is going to be making sure that you've got your technical SEO squared away, making sure that the content on the page is optimized for the keyword you're trying to rank for, and then building up that authority.
Another keyword question. You talked about using the competitor name or as a keyword on your WordPress site. Where would you actually add that?
So that you wouldn't necessarily put that on your website. That would be geared more towards an advertising campaign. So those are the keywords that you're trying to advertise for. So again, if somebody was searching for your competitor, then your ad would show up instead of their company. I mean, their company would still show up lower, but you would have your business right there, in front of people. And that would be where having your USP is extremely important for that, because again, you're trying to steal business from from one of your competitors. So you want to make sure that your USP makes you stand out against them. When it comes to your own website, you don't really want to mention directly your competitors. I mean, I don't know how in your face you want to be targeting your competitors. You could be, if you're talking about your competitors, if you're mentioning your competitors on your website, you can be like us compared to this company, and this company, and you can show how you do things better than them. You can even set up like a grid that shows, oh, well, we offer this, but these other competitors don't offer that. That would be one way to kind of sneak in your competitor's name on your website.
Sure. And then
But
how would
ideally,
you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to finish with saying, ideally, putting in your competitors as keywords is primarily just for advertising. You wouldn't want to put that on your website.
Got it. And one other question, how would you identify the presence of a robot preventing you from being indexed by a search engine?
So the robot.txt file, that is one of the files that is hosted on your server. So what you would have to do is you can use a very simple, free to use technical SEO scanner. They're very basic, but if it's a successful scan, then that means that your robots file is good to go. And again, that's just it's just a file that's on your server that tells search engines whether to scan your website or not.
Mhm.
It's not like somebody else put a robot on your website and is
Got it.
telling Google not to scan. It's just a file on your own website. Now, by default, um, they're usually just blank, so there shouldn't be any issues there. But sometimes you do run into an issue where maybe something got set up funky, it didn't quite work right when it was installed, or maybe you had somebody before who was working on it and accidentally had a typo in that file. Or I've run into the instance where you had a disgruntled past marketing agency person or freelancer go in there and change it to try and screw you over. I've seen that happen before, but again, the only
Lots of
way to
variations there.
there's a lot of variations, but it's
Yeah,
not somebody deploying a robot to your website preventing it. It's just a
got
file.
it.
And
Sure.
to find a scanner, you can Google like SE Optimer, or you can just Google free SEO technical scan or something like that. There's hundreds of different ones that you can find. Or very simply, you can just go to Google and type in your website and see if it pops up.
Okay, and getting back to the Google My Business account, I guess the limits the customer videos to 5 MB. Is there a way to change that or increase the size of the video allowed to be posted?
As far as I'm aware, that's a pretty set in stone file size limit.
Okay.
If you
And
can, try to maybe reduce the resolution. If it's like a 4K or 1080p video, try to squish it down to 720 if you know how to do that. Um, what I would do, if you don't know how to do that, you could probably try to cut it in half if it's too big and have like a part one and part two. Um, Aside from that, the only thing that I can think of is just trying to reduce that file size to fit.
you think, does having videos versus white pages on your website, is that better in Google's eyes?
What was that?
Having videos versus just content pages, is that better in Google's eyes?
Well, yeah, Google likes to see a variation of content. And the cool part, if you've got like, let's say you're creating a blog post, and in that blog post you've got a video. So let's say you're just talking about something. An easy way to get better rankings for that is to simply create a transcript, and that transcript is going to be the text of the page.
Got it.
So videos are great. Google loves to see that, especially if it's like let's say if it's hosted on YouTube, then you can get some YouTube SEO going as well, so that if somebody's searching for that particular topic in YouTube, it'll pop up. That's a whole nother topic. But having videos on your website is definitely great, but you don't want to have a page that's just a video. You still want some context in there. You have to use it somewhat strategically. Like I said, if you just want a video on there, then make sure to at least write out a transcript of that video and post that below the video, so there's some text for Google to read.
Okay. Is that something you consider like sitemaps? Does that really help with the Google SEO? Or is it better to have solid like robot.txt files?
So you need both. A sitemap.xml, that is essentially the structure, the archetype of your website. That tells Google how your pages are structured. And it also tells Google all of the pages of your website. So the sitemap is actually one of those requirements, and that's something that is looked for again in a technical scan or technical audit of your website. Those two go hand in hand, and oftentimes you actually reference well, good practice is to reference your sitemap inside of your robots file. That way, because that's the first file that a search engine looks at when it comes to your website. It'll look at that robots.txt file. And then if you reference your sitemap, it'll go to that sitemap and it'll actually go through and it'll understand, okay, these are all the pages on the website. And then it starts to crawl all of those pages. So a
Okay.
sitemap is definitely a mandatory file as well as your robots.
Oh, cool. And then last question, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for kind of sticking in here. This gentleman, Stephen, notes, I use WordPress. I get 99% spam comments, and then I use Ask Amet, but it doesn't help. Any solutions?
Yeah, so one of the things that can really help is by installing a plugin that allows you to add the Google reCAPTCHA, whether it's like the little checkbox that says "I'm not a robot." There is a free plugin out there. In order to actually use the reCAPTCHA, it's a little bit technical to set up because you have to go to the Google Cloud Developer section and register for an API credentials, and it's a little bit of a process. But there is a plugin that will allow you to attach that reCAPTCHA form to all of the basic WordPress forms. So your login form, registration form, your comment form. Um, Now, if you're getting only spam comments on your website, you're not getting any like legitimate comments from real users. One of the easiest ways to stop that is just to turn off comments for your posts.
Oh, okay.
Um, until you start to get a lot of legitimate traffic. But if you want to keep the comments section up there, you can Google for the reCAPTCHA plugin for WordPress
Mhm.
and then set that up, and that usually that mitigates a ton of those spam comments.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you guys for coming on today. Please fill out our survey. You will receive a copy of the presentation as well. We just appreciate you coming on here. And stay tuned for February. We have a great series coming up in February, kind of tagging onto this and looking more specifically at sales, some tools, metrics, processes. We'll be doing some workshops on e-commerce and really just getting those numbers to add up. So this is the first in a line of workshops that we're presenting to folks to really focus on building your business from a revenue standpoint. So we appreciate you coming on and look forward to seeing you in the future. Hope everyone has a great week. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Paula.